everyone. I just wanted to talk about an incident that I have rarely spoke about. This incident goes back to the winter of 2021 when I worked for a local shelter in the region. I'm hoping that you guys will give me a minute to explain the incident and what I've learned from this particular incident. And I hope you can take something away from this pretty powerful and what I consider to be a devastating incident. One night while I was working at a temporary winter shelter in Niagara Falls, I completed intake for our participants. This is the process where you check people in, people that were looking to stay in our makeshift shelter. When I heard some glass drop on the floor, followed by a thud, I knew it came from the men's bathroom, and immediately took off for that area. As I entered the room, it was empty, but I could instantly tell that someone had been using fentanyl, had been using some sort of illicit narcotic. If anyone has ever smelt heroin, meth, or fentanyl, you know the smell immediately. Thick in the air was this burnt plastic and rubber vapor. You could even see it suspended, rising above the last stall. I could see through the crack in the door, and it was someone I had just booked in through HIFIS only an hour earlier. I had saw him walk past me and as he entered the bathroom, but he never came back out. After he took a hit of some pretty pure fentanyl cut with something else, I'm guessing heroin, he almost immediately passed out. The sound of glass clinking off of the hard washroom floor was the man, his immediate reaction to losing control of his body. Within seconds, he was unconscious, and this is where and how I found him. I quickly called for the other two staff that were working that night to assist me. I administered the first Narcan kit. At the shelter, we used only the nasal Narcan kits or naloxone kits. It had no effect. By the time I had administered the first kit, both of my coworkers had arrived. My junior colleague, a new hire, she had never seen an overdose before. And when I asked her to call 911, she was having difficulty dealing and communicating effectively with the 911 operator. This was all a new experience for her. As my more senior colleague began giving the man first aid, I took over responsibility dealing with 911. I had a lot of experience communicating with 911, and in a frantic emergency type situation, it's always best to clearly and efficiently communicate with 911. During this particular winter, I had seen nearly 24 overdoses. Now, fortunately, all of those men and women pulled through, but the individual before me on this particular occasion was not looking good. We ultimately administered two more Narcan naloxone kits, inhalers, and he was still not coming out of it. Now, it is Niagara Regional Police's policy, at least at the time, that if someone is found unconscious, Even if it's likely from a self-induced overdose, the police need to respond. After about 3 minutes, after placing the first 911 call, within 3 minutes, the fire department arrived. They were just down the street from our location, so they had a very short journey. And then 3 or 4 minutes after that, a small gaggle of police showed up, again, because it's their responsibility when someone is found unconscious. Between the shelter staff and the fire department and the police, there must have been at least 12 to 15 people on scene at that time. As I said, all in all, it took 3 Narcan kits, naloxone nasal inhalers, to bring this man to a state where he was stable enough to transport to the hospital. 3 hits of Narcan or naloxone are rare. 1 or possibly 2 is usually enough to pull someone through where they regain some sort of alert state. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because of what was said by a sergeant with the Niagara Regional Police Service while the firefighters and my staff were still trying to save this man's life. The first police officer to arrive was a young male constable. I can't remember his name or any police officer who responded that night. The second officer that arrived was a much older sergeant. The younger officer was shocked by the number of naloxone kits that we needed to use to revive this man. Again, 3. I had never seen 3. Usually, for most of the overdoses I personally was there for, it was 1, on the rare occasion 2. The young police constable asked, with what I believe was sincerity and curiosity in his voice, why does someone do this? What makes them want to push it this far? Meaning the person that used and the amount and the type of narcotic he used. This is not an uncommon series of questions for someone who hasn't been around those who have experienced addictions. Without missing a beat, his sergeant glibly responded, "He just must love the way fentanyl smells." With a man inches away at his feet on the verge of death, this sergeant, who is likely making north of $200,000 a year, jokes about a man going through crisis, a man that has a crushing addiction issue and likely mental health issues, a man who nearly died, and he suggests that this was all for fun and that he likes the smell of this drug. I immediately called out this sergeant for his comment. Still, his young recruit backed up his superior officer, and all of the police present that particular evening ignored my comments and suggestions that was wildly inappropriate and a profoundly disgusting remark. Now, where I believe I failed was that I didn't immediately report this through the OIPRD, and I didn't make this comment or this incident public, known to you guys. This sergeant is still out there. He's still making light of the poor, the unhoused, and those with addictions. And we are paying him to insult the people he is tasked to help. On the NRPS's website, on the NRPS crest on their shoulders, their motto says, in plain English, unity, responsibility, and loyalty. That night, I learned that the Niagara Regional Police Service is united behind each other. They are loyal to their fellow colleagues, and there is no responsibility to protect and empathize with the most vulnerable in their community, in our community. A man who was sad and hurting sought refuge in a chemical. To make the pain go away, he turned to a lethal cocktail of unregulated narcotics. And instead of an officer willing to help, all I saw that night, that bitter, cold, dark night, was a callous police officer teaching his youthful colleague that the NRPS, their idea of unity, responsibility, and loyalty. This is how the problem never gets fixed. The problem continues to linger on. This is the professionalism that we are coming to expect from our local police service. On their website, on the Niagara Regional website, in their mission statement, it says in their second subheading, members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe, and then it's got a series of bullets, in pursuing excellence in every circumstance. Maybe this guy likes the way fentanyl smells. Does that sound like it's pursuing excellence in every circumstance? Members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe in being fair and unbiased in the performance of their duties in accordance with the Charter. I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. The members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe in treating all victims of crime with compassion and understanding. While this man was not a victim of a crime, he is a victim of a system, but I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. Members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe in maintaining professional standards of conduct at all time, with 12 to 15 people from different services and agencies standing around providing first aid to this dying man. I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. Members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe in being approachable, courteous, and open to all. I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. In developing creative solutions to policing concerns through community-oriented policing. I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. Members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe in striving to be active participants and leaders in the community. I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. Members of the Niagara Regional Police Service believe in providing a professional, satisfying work environment that respects employees' rights and encourages personal and professional growth. With a young, new colleague right beside him, this sergeant says in front of a bunch of witnesses, I guess he just likes the way fentanyl smells. This is our police service. Is this acceptable? I failed that night because I didn't tell you guys that this happens, this occurs. Now, having worked for a nonprofit in this community for nearly 2 years, for almost 2 years, I saw dozens of overdoses, dozens of police encounters with those that are unhoused, that are experiencing mental health and addictions issues. This occurrence between this sergeant and a dying man in the bathroom of a church in Niagara Falls, this is not something that is rare or novel or unique. This is something that's happening every day. And this sergeant is cracking jokes every day. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? I'm not asking people to cure addictions, end people's addictions, to come up with a solution to the mental health crisis or a failing system for housing and healthcare. But at what point do we demand from the leadership, from Brian at the Niagara Regional Police Service, when do we expect more? When do we demand more? Because you might say, well, that officer wouldn't joke about me. He's only making that joke towards someone who's experiencing this addiction. That person made a choice to use. I don't agree with that. I don't think it was a choice. I think he was led down a path, and that path ended at addictions and ultimately will lead to his own early death. But what happens when you're in that car accident and that same sergeant shows up and he cracks a joke about you or your family member or a friend who is hurt or possibly dead in the vehicle? Is that the kind of police that you want showing up to your call?